Welcome to the Cashflow Project podcast. Are you looking to better your financial situation by increasing your cash flow? Too busy to hunt for real estate deals or don't know where to start? Then you're in the right spot. Join us as we dive in and talk about investing for cash flow using multifamily real estate.
Welcome to the Cashflow Project podcast. I'm your host, Steve Fierros with Tri-City Equity Group. Today, I'm excited. We've got Darcy Marler on the show. Darcy's been a full-time investor for over 23 years. That time he's invested in just about every major residential investing strategy, including small, medium, and large land development projects. We were just talking about some off camera here. Maybe he'll share us a little bit of insight that he's got there, including some of this development, what led to eventually like a horse track and casino. I know we've got some experienced listeners on the show. I can guarantee you probably haven't done that. So definitely maybe we can talk about that. He's done new construction, short, long-term rentals, flips, and he's based up in Calgary, up in Canada. So for all my people up in Canada, up in the north, we're going to send him some warmth and aloha here from Hawaii. Authored multiple books on real estate investing. He's got 4 books there. He's now doing online property development course. In total, he's owned almost about 100 individual properties and managed close to 1,000 tenants. So he can share some insight too on how he didn't pull all his hair out during that time. So Darcy, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I love doing this stuff. Thank you very much.
Awesome. No, we have pleasure. Thank you so much. Pleasure having you on. Thanks for taking some time out of your day to come on and share with our listeners, share with me some of your wisdom and your insight and what you've learned maybe over the course of your career. But for those of our listeners that may not be familiar with who you are or had the honor to have met you in the past, give us a little bit of your backstory. How did you get involved into real estate investing? I mean, you've done a lot. So did you come from a storied family there in Canada on land development and real estate or tell us in?
No, my dad's a farmer. So I came from a farm background. Maybe that's why I like
land development there, right?
No, I got my first book about real estate given to me when I was 15. So that was early 80s. So that's over 40 years ago. And I was just fascinated by it, leverage and all this. Kind of the no money down era and late night infomercials and all that stuff. Didn't really do anything with it, but I've been watching real estate education for 40 years. I was an IT guy. I lived and worked in South America in the late 90s. And 2001, I got burnt out, didn't want to see a computer again. So I said, you know what, I'm going to move back home and I'm going to actually start investing. So I got into flips and a couple of those didn't sell. So now all of a sudden I'm a landlord and I get bored quick. So I tried all the different things. Just about the time I got good at something and I should have just focused, I peeled off onto something. So gave me lots of experience, let me write books and build courses. I should have focused more. If I'm a word to the wise, to the younger people, focus on one thing and go hard. Anyway, it's been a fun journey, I tell you.
Oh, that's good. That's great. I mean, you covered a lot of ground in a relatively short period of time. You've done probably more in that brief period in terms of 20 years or so than the vast majority of investors will ever do. But you kind of mentioned some there like on focus, but what I've seen is a lot of our previous guests have come on, they fell forward. If you try one strategy, hey, this is not a great fit for me or the ideal fit for me. Okay, that's okay. Let me move on to the next one. This is a beautiful thing about real estate. That there's a million and one different ways to monetize being in the business. You can shuffle paper, you can fix and flip, just like you mentioned, you even becoming an accidental landlord. Okay, well, hey, maybe that leads to property management, like a separate business doing that, or any number of different ways. It sounds like you've kind of ventured down a few different routes there. Now, for those of our listeners, and we've got experienced investors that kind of tune in, and we've got people that are just kind of getting started. What led you to kind of slot into, let's say, eventually kind of what you're doing now? I know you're no longer necessarily fixing and flipping. What are you currently working on?
So right now I like kind of I like new. So one of the things, let me back up a little bit. So I think as an industry, I've been watching this, like I said, for 40 years. And I think new people come in and all we're really taught is flips or rentals, maybe some Airbnb. So whatever kind of first weekend conference you go to, well, that's what you're doing. And most of the time that's rentals. I think we push people too quickly to pick their how. What strategy are you going to do? So I would recommend that take some time and check out all the different strategies and match that to your personality. Like, what do you think you're going to like and dislike about this thing? What are your strengths and weaknesses? Because there's pros and cons to every strategy. You wouldn't know it by listening to the TV shows. The flips always turn out great. The rentals always turn out great. but there's pluses and minuses to everything. So match that to your strategy, your personality to your strategy, and then come for me. So for me, like I've had close to 100 properties and 240 units, and I've just done a lot of renos on some really nasty. I call myself the king of nasty. Some of the before pictures of some of those places were just disgusting. I've had properties that had fire damage, or that hoarders lived in, or cat lady. And you can imagine how that smelled like. I had one building where there was mushrooms and grass growing on the carpet. Like it was just, that's what I was doing. I just got tired of that. So I said, no, I don't want that anymore. I sold all my rentals. Like that never gave me joy. I don't want to deal with old anymore. I want to deal with new. I want to be creative. So that led me back to what I'm doing now, is more land development, new construction, because you get to plan and, like I said, be creative. You get to watch your vision literally rise out of the ground. It's awesome. So again, that fits my personality a lot better than fixing up a 1910 piece of crap. So
I love that. And kind of as you're talking there, the line that kind of comes to my mind, know thyself. And it's like, you won't know. And I love that too, because you're exactly right. There's so many different, let's say, courses out there. There's a million TV shows right now. Everybody watches these shows and think it's so easy just to do fix and flip and cool. Look, it's all done in 30 minutes. They went from picking out a property, rehabbing it, marketing it, selling it, and gone, and they profited within 30 to 45 minutes, which is, both know, it's completely unrealistic.
And they don't even show you 10 times, or most of the times, how they even found it. Like the show starts with the husband and wife team walking up the sidewalk. Here's our house. They open the door. There'll be a broken lazy boy there and a piece of 2x4. Oh my God, it's a disaster in this place. How are we ever? Come on, really? That's a disaster? No, I'll show you some disasters. Come on into my photo library. Just totally unrealistic. Yes. So let's take some time and learn and match the strategy to who you are.
No, for sure. And again, there's so many different ways to be able to earn a profitable living and beyond in the business. And there's only I've only ever heard a couple of people talk about that. Each of us is made differently. We each have different skill sets. You've got different strengths. You got different weaknesses. You mentioned earlier something, and you said it didn't give you joy. And it's like, okay, well, look, guys, a lot of times people forget, man, if you're fixing and flipping, that is a job. It's another job. Like it really is. And now it can be a very paying job. But again, once you stop working, unless you're kind of socking away money, investing in something else, you're not gonna have any income. So there's always stuff like that to consider. But again, if project management, if deal finding and doing all that kind of stuff is not the best fit for you and your personality, you're going to hate it. I mean, and I've met flippers that either burn out because they do that and it's just not the great fit for them. Or again, they walk away. This wasn't the TV show. They become disenchanted with real estate in general. And then they just wash their hands of real estate thinking, well, this doesn't work. And it's like, oh, that's sad, man. There's so many different ways where you can be successful in the business. So I love that you're talking about that.
Because even with the flips, like I said, plus and minuses to everything. The good thing about flips is the quick. You get paid in 5-6 months. They're really great. The downside is you're always on the hunt, like a conveyor belt. There's that pressure to find the next one because you got to keep your trades busy or they're going to go somewhere else. And so there's a lot of pressure in that. And it's hard to scale. I've known guys hundreds of flips, but that's a deal. So are you up for that? Perfect. If not, there's other ways to do that. Rentals, again, you got to deal with tenants. And I think most people assume from the gurus that he's just going to get a property management company to do that. Well, most property management companies suck. So you're going to spend more time doing this than you like. Specifically, if you're doing value add, where I was taking Class D buildings and fixing them up to Class C buildings. Well, you're still stuck with Class C tenants, and you're still stuck with that old 1940s, 50s building that just needs repair all the time. So there's a ton of time taken up with this. So again, if that's what you want, plus some people, they don't want to be full-time. Lots of people want to quit their 9-to-5 and do this. Other people are quite fine with the W-2 job. And I just want to do this on the side. Well, pick the strategy that matches where you want to be and what you get out of it.
Darcy's spitting fire here because, guys, for those of you that are just searching and seeking away, I don't want to scare you off, but there is some reality that just people that they don't talk about. So what he's talking about in terms of property management, 100% true. There's some amazing property managers out there, and we've been through a lot over the course of our investing career at this point. I mean, we're managing commercial portfolio for multiple states. So we've had an opportunity to work with like a lot of different property management companies, some small, some kind of boutique, to some very large. And you're thinking, oh, okay, well, Surely the large ones would be awesome. And sometimes that's not the case. They get lost. They get lost in the shuffle. At the end of the day, you're kind of reliant on who the management team is, who the ownership team is. Sometimes the boutique, smaller company is better. But again, you don't know that going in. So you can't just think, oh, okay, I'm going to hand this off and I'll just going to collect checks while I'm sipping my ties in Hawaii. That's not always necessarily the case, guys. I mean, you have to manage the managers, and that's a job in and of itself. And so there's talking a lot of different great things here that most people, I don't think, really talk about.
Most gurus, TV shows, they all just focus on the positive. Well, there's a downside to everything. Like we're going to talk about developments and all that later. There's good things about that too, and we can get into that later too.
Yeah, no, and then we can kind of dovetail into that a little bit, right? So something that like our property managers and we would have to deal with now. You were just talking about kind of older infrastructure with some of these older builds. Yeah, you can get into them potentially more affordably because it's an older product. You're talking Class D, Class C. A lot of times, guys, for those of you who might not be familiar with that, it's maybe older vintage, kind of, or potentially lower quality, like fewer amenities and just neighborhoods that need more work. And as they get older, everything's got a lifespan. So if you're buying a property built, let's say in the 50s and 60s, which is pretty common here where I'm at, and for a big part of the country as well, you're dealing with older plumbing, older electrical, and you may not be, knowledgeable enough to be able to walk in and say, okay, well, hey, yeah, I can change out the flooring and the paint and renovate and update this kitchen. What about all the stuff that underneath it you can't see? A lot of that is you're at the end of the lifespan. If it's got cast iron plumbing or clay or copper, it depends on where you're at in the country too. So all of that stuff varies depending on where you're at. You have to take that into account. And if it's going to be a buy and hold and you're penciling for $100 a door, all it takes is one lateral line to collapse, let's say in your yard, your cash flow is done. You're wiped out for a long time. So, and you're trying to manage this thing, pay a property manager and make $100 a month. That's tough.
You're not making at least $300-400 a month cash flow. You're in the danger zone for just, or even a tenant kicking in a wall, or even your hot water tank going. Well, there's $1,000, $1,200. So are you account for that? So those older buildings, they've got aluminum wiring, which is almost impossible to insure now, and single pane glass. Next 100 years ago, 1920s, 1930s, they put the insulation was sawdust and newspaper clippings. All that's fallen to the bottom of the cavity now. So there's next to no energy efficiency in these buildings. So it is what it is. So there's two ways to do it. I can normally the rentals, you make money from the eventual appreciation, monthly cash flow, and mortgage pay down. The fourth way is kind of sweat equity or whatever. Can we fix up a piece of crap? So you either do that or you buy something that's already been fixed up and normalized, but then you're going to pay for it. So there's a plus and minus to everything. But again, what do you have the money for? What do you want to do? I would suggest, if you are getting into rentals, put as much down as you can. I know most people try to put as little down. Now you'll sleep better. 1 or 2 recessions, I've been through a couple of those. So maybe 30% down, buy as new as you can, and then buy in areas that are more landlord friendly than others. You don't want rent control. You don't want to take a year to kick a tenant out. So if you're going to get rentals, don't just assume that your town is a great place to do it, because it may not be. So you'll sleep better.
100%. And we've long been buying out of state, out of market personally, specifically for those reasons. We want landlord friendly states, right? Because to Darcy's point there, it can be an absolute nightmare. And do you have a bad tenant, bad resident in one of your unit? Well, how do these guys, you have to be aware of this too, because this comes back to screening your tenants and making sure if you're doing it, awesome. You have more control. If you're property management, they better be screening your tenants well, because some of these tenants, they're literally professional tenants. They know the landlord tenant laws better than you do. And they'll work that system to no end and then put you in a world of hurt doing that, because they're not paying the rent. They don't want to move on. So again, you want to be in some kind of jurisdiction that is friendly to you as a landlord if you're looking to build out a portfolio and whatnot. And that may not be in your backyard. That may not be your home state, your home market, wherever you're at. So I know Darcy and I have both gotten accustomed to, at this point, investing far away from where we are, where it makes sense, really. You want to go where the demographics play out. Hey, where's the migration happening? Where's the job growth? Where's the strong economic drivers? So you got a number of boxes to check. Now, tell us a little bit about that too. Now, obviously you're working on stuff far away from where you're at. You've gotten comfortable doing that. How have you been able to do that? Where are you currently working on stuff?
Well, typically, so again, what we're seeing now on both sides of the border is unprecedented foreign immigration. And that's really what's pushing the housing crisis. We hear about the housing crisis. We really don't have a housing crisis. We got an immigration crisis, but we won't go there. But the other thing you're seeing too is unprecedented levels of domestic movement around the country. And people are leaving places, high taxes, maybe some social issues. So like what we're seeing in California or New York, people sleeping on the streets and all this. Okay, well, and for the taxes, people are moving, right? They're the top 3 or 4 states for people moving out of. They had net out migration is California, New York, Illinois, Chicago, which is Massachusetts, so Boston. They're moving kind of from these places down to that. Florida was number 1, Texas, North and South Carolina, Tennessee, where they've got no state taxes, where there's a lot less paperwork if you want to do some development or much more landlord-friendly places as well. But again, you can pay $3,000 a month for a little shoebox in Manhattan, or you can go to Texas and for that kind of money, you get a little mini mansion kind of thing. So we're seeing that, and that's really moving, like I said, unprecedented movement. So I want to be where people are, where you can actually don't have to fight the paperwork for a year and a half. In my world, in development, there's places that'll approve a zoning change or a density change in 2 months. There's other places that'll take 2 years and everything in between. Well, we're investors. Time's an issue. Let's not invest in the 2-year place. Let's go to the 2, 3, 4, 5 month place so we can get stuff done. So time is money. So you're seeing it. So personally, I'm Texas and Florida, these kind of places. And I've got this course. A lot of my students are active in Tennessee and Oklahoma and Carolina and Georgia. A lot of the southern states, just where you've got cheaper and less inexpensive labor force too in a lot of places, but the land's cheaper. And again, much easier to get things done from the government side.
Yeah, no, 100%. And this is the thing. This is an interesting thing, right? About, let's say, the U.S. and this will play out likely in different markets too. I mean, I don't have experience investing in Canada, but it sounds like you've got extensive experience investing in the U.S. So we'll kind of keep it there for now. It's going to vary totally state to state and jurisdiction to jurisdiction, even within the state. You got a lot of different cities, a lot of smaller municipalities. You talked about zoning there. So what is your strategy? So for Darcy, he's doing development, but if you're doing major renovations, you're doing stuff like that, know your local zoning laws, know how quickly you can get a permit done. So here locally, I know in my home market, it's 12 months is the average time to get a permit. So I know if I go into, well, hey, if I pencil out a major renovation for, let's say, a fix and flip, all right, well, what do I need to get done? I need to get foundation work. I need to get electrical. I need to get roofing if it's a full rehab and we're doing some major work. Well, guess what? All that stuff you need to pull permits. Well, does your timeline, does your underwriting reflect waiting 12 months of holding costs, keeping your crews around, which Darcy mentioned around earlier? Do you have control over that? Can you keep your guys? Is material cost going to be the same 12 months from now, from when you can actually start in your project? Like there's a lot of different factors and you need to know that. Like if this is something that you're going to take on the time and energy and maybe this is your life savings that I want to make a change. I want to get out of my W-2 and move into fix and flipping because I see that in the commercials and it looks awesome. And okay, awesome. Then know all of this. Like save yourself some time and your headache. Take the advice, understand your market. And if it doesn't make sense there, that's okay. You can find another market to go.
And the funny thing about that too is maybe your town does suck. So what I teach works all over, but not necessarily the government's going to help in your market. But literally half hour up the road could be a different town where it's totally different. Even across the highway, there's another county they're much more pro development than they're right. Yeah, we want we need new housing and we need new this and that. So yeah, we're right there with you. So it doesn't have to be across the country. It can literally be half an hour up the road in a different city. Life can be totally different.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And then how are you helping? Because I know you're teaching people, you've got your course and whatnot. How are you helping people to kind of navigate right now? We've had high interest rates now for a stretch. We're also dealing with higher OPEX across the board. We've got a lot of increased fixed costs that you don't have control over how much, let's say, property insurance is. That's a hot topic right now. I mean, that's a big deal. We got carriers that are dropping out of multiple markets, different states. If you're in Florida and your coastal market, I hear these rates increasing 5x, 10x maybe in certain instances. You've got carriers pulling out of, let's say, California. So it's like, how are you helping kind of students or people that you're taking maybe your course kind of navigate some of these different hurdles that we're having to deal with?
So let me maybe back up and explain development a little bit. So I think most of us, when we talk land development or we think kind of the big companies on the outskirts of town, they're going to buy 400 acres and put up thousands of tract homes. we can scale it down to our size as regular investors, just buy an old house on a 50-foot lot. So, and what can we do with that? So I teach what I call these micro strategies. So the great thing about this versus the flip and rental world is I pretty much have to finish a project. You can't half finish a flip and expect to make any money for it. You can't half finish a rental and expect a tenant to live there. So we're used to finishing. But in this world, let's say there's the kind of the paperwork only, the permitting, getting my permits. Then there's the land preparation where I'm maybe putting some utilities in the ground or whatever. And then there's the physical build. So you've got these different entry and exit points. You don't have to do the whole thing. If every building starts with grass and all these things have to be done, you can specifically look for land in this specific state. You add, in this condition, I meant not a physical state, but this condition, I add this value, and then I'm going to sell to the next person down the line. It could be another investor, it could be a builder. So there's opportunities, to your point, is maybe I just want to do the paperwork only. Maybe I just want to change zoning and density. So let's say I find an old house. We're taught traditionally over the last 40 years that the value is in the building. I got to add value to the building before I make any money. I'm going to get rich by dealing with the building. I need a building. Well, what if the building's 1910 and it's just beyond repair? Most of us don't know what to do with that. What if it's a vacant lot? Most of us don't know what to do with that because I need a building. Well, by learning those kind of things, like if you tear down an old house, you got a vacant lot. So what can we do with land? So what we do is we kind of teach people what is zoning and density, what is usage, what is highest and best use, how do you increase the value of land? So some of those, like let's say we found an old house that we can tear down and change the zoning to allow a fourplex there. Maybe that's all I do. I change that, I get that paperwork done, I've added value to the land, I can sell that. So maybe that's only 4 or 5 months to do that. And now I just do paperwork, flip paperwork like you talked about before. Maybe I get my architect to design that fourplex, I get the building permit approved. Well, now I've got a shovel-ready package that I can sell to a builder or another investor. Maybe I knock on the next door neighbor, I tie that one up too. So now I got 2 50-foot lots. Well, I got 100 lots or 100-foot lot. What can I do with that? I can put the paperwork together to allow a small apartment building, maybe side-by-side townhouses. I just do the paperwork. I'm not doing any work on site. Sell that. Well, or I can do 100. I got 100 feet now. I can maybe split that into 333s or 425-foot lots and sell that. The next step is maybe, okay, maybe I do want to do some work on site. Maybe I knock down that old house. I split that 50-foot lot into 2. I put utilities in. Well, now I got service lots. So now I can sell service lots to a builder or 2 young couples that want to build their own homes. Or maybe I knock down the house and I build that fourplex myself. I can go all the way through. So to answer your question, how do you kind of navigate some of this stuff? What I've learned in 23 years, big thing now, you'll hear me say it all the time, is get in and out quick because interest rates change, governments change, government policies change, the price of wood changes. So maybe you're just looking specifically for this. I'm adding this value and then I'm out. But again, you can match it to your personality. Darcy, I want to build. So now you're going to look for stuff where the pipe's already in the ground, the permit's already ready, and I'm just going to build. Or like me, I like the dirt part. I grew up on a farm. I like dirt. So I like the land preparation bit. Let's clear the ground. Let's put the utility pipes in the ground, split it up into smaller lots, build the internal road, and then create subdivisions and sell that to builders. That's what I like. But again, even in Texas, I'm looking at doing in and out in 18 months. People think that these are long 4 or 5 years to develop. No, it doesn't have to be. So you can get in and out quick. Paperwork only, again, 4 or 5 months, 6 months. So that's how I get around those kind of things, is just focus on a strategy that I like in an area that kind of works and do what I can to get in and out in a few months or a year kind of thing.
No, I love that. And I love that it's a different angle of approach, right? And we talked a few different times. I know we mentioned that it's like you can just have the strategy that works for you, but for one, you got to educate yourself on what's available, right? So some listener, or maybe many listeners, would have just heard what you said and be like, I had no idea that was even possible. I thought they said on the TV that you just find the old house or you slap in some new appliances, paint and flooring, and that's it. That's how you do it in real estate, right? Or you buy the property, you sit on it for 30 years, you make $100 a month, and then at the end, I'm rich, right? And it's like, well, there's a lot of different strategies. And this is where it comes back to also knowing your local market. Like they just passed some legislation that's looking to increase density. Right. So like, okay, hey, now you can add, let's say for a typical residential lot, whereas before maybe you could add 1 ADU. Now we can add a secondary. We could add a second ADU to increase density. So look and see what these different markets, these submarkets, these municipalities, are they trying to do something that will give you an inside edge? It will give you a leg up and a different strategy that maybe nobody else is pursuing. you're familiar with blue ocean, red ocean. If everybody in your market is trying to do fix and flip, well, the water's bloody. It becomes a red ocean. So can you find a new, fresh strategy or look at it with a fresh lens, right? To be able to create some opportunity and create your own blue ocean, some nice, clear, blue water that you can go bring in and implement a new strategy. Just like Darcy's talking about, hey, can I take that one house that was maybe zoned just for one single family, get it rezoned or package it up with a neighboring lot, and maybe we do some new development, increased density, because that's what the local municipality is looking to do, right? And they may incentivize you to be able to do that. And so, like, find a way to think a little bit outside of the box and don't get just so shoehorned into just one strategy in particular. I love that.
So basically, yeah. So I think this, like I said, I've been watching real estate education for 40 years. All we're taught is flips, short-term rentals, long-term rentals, rent to own, wholesaling, Airbnb. That's all we've been taught. But again, it's the building. And so there's so much competition. We're all looking for the same project. Anybody that watched the podcast or read a book or gone to a course, we're all going for that same thing. Well, let's play in a sandbox. What do you do with a vacant lot? What do you do with that 1910? Here's an interesting stat for you. So the average lifespan of a wooden structure in North America is 70 years, 90 for brick. So it's not like Europe where things last 100 years. Well, that puts us in 1954 and 1934. So why are we trying to fix up that 1910 piece of crap? Or I was talking to somebody in Philadelphia a couple of weeks ago. I'm trying to renovate an 1880 building. It's kicking my ass. Well, tear the bloody thing down. Like, so dizzy. Like, why are we doing that? And it's our way as small investors to make profit, but it also, we can help with the housing crisis. Mostly we've just been building out urban sprawl. Let's come back to the inner city, knock down the old stuff, but come back with higher density, higher inventory. Let's come back with a fourplex. The thing about that 1940 house, it was 600 square feet. It was a little thing on a 50-foot lot. What a waste of space. We weren't that efficient with land. So can we do better there? Is there different ways to kind of come in? So I think land development, new construction, real estate development, I think this is going to be the next big thing in real estate investing over the next 5 or 10 years. Because the houses are getting older. They're not, and more and more people are going to realize, I don't have to just fix it up because it's just nasty. Like let's the foundation issues with all those old buildings too. So let's just get rid of the building and start fresh. Let's revitalize neighborhoods. Let's provide some housing for the missing middle that they call it and all that. Because
100%.
Yeah,
that's her.
You can think of it. If over investors over the last 40 years, all we've done is one for one. We've taken an old house out of the lower income strata, we've added value, and now it's a higher upper income. If we have done new construction, it's tore down the old house, build really, really, really nice new house. It's again, just one for one. So we've kind of depleted this inner city, missing middle kind of a opportunity. The only new stuff is getting built on the outskirts of town. So we've kind of done it to ourselves as investors where we've kind of kicked ourselves in the butt. So let's come back. Let's add inventory. Let's add density to the inner city. And now there's an opportunity to make money and bring some affordable housing to the market and lower rents potentially.
No, I love that. Actually, that's really good. And I really have not heard too many investors, too many people in the space talking about that. We hear a lot about like that, like housing crisis, housing affordability. Okay, well, guess what, guys? Us as investors, smaller investors, and we're not talking institutional buyers and people who have these massive pockets and these large scale investors who are going to come in and want to buy swaths of neighbors. They're not going to do this either because it's just too inefficient for them. Right. But you have an opportunity to make a real difference, a real impact in your local community to create some affordability, to tackle these smaller projects. We as investors can be much more nimble than the government will ever be. We're going to be way more efficient than the government can ever be. So a lot of times they will implement even, let's say, tax strategies, incentives, and that kind of stuff to help alleviate, let's say, housing problems. And again, you're almost jumping in front of this because, hey, I want to be in the path of progress. The path of progress is, let's say, these specific markets who do have an increased demand for housing. And guys, we haven't kept up with the housing demand. So in most markets, that's going to be the case, especially these growth markets who have a lot of net immigration. You're solving a problem. You're in a great way where you can still make a profit. It's all ethically done because again, you're bringing solutions to the marketplace and the marketplace will reward those who bring the most value. But I love this. I love this strategy. I'm glad you're talking about it.
And I've got Darcyisms. One is in and out quick. Yeah, another one is don't paddle upstream, which what does the community and the city want and need? So if you've heard horror stories about development, it's probably because some developer tried to plan home a project that didn't fit the area, and the community and the city said no. And then we tend to blame the city. Well, it's not, I'll blame the developer in that one. Know what you want to do. So again, what do they need? Well, almost always there's no incentives or anything for flips or rentals, the one for one, but there's a housing crisis. I need housing for a lower income crowd, and almost everybody needs housing for seniors. So there's incentives for that. It could be grants, rebates, help with financing, these kind of things. So there's lots of opportunities here in this development world that don't exist there. So we're always sitting there, well, how do I raise money? How do I do this? Well, if you need less money because you've got a grant or rebate, well, that helps with financing, does it not? So there's different ways. Again, you may have 3 or 4 tools in your toolbox. Traditionally, I'm going to give you like 20, and that makes you a much more stronger investor, much more able to be flexible and bob and weave. This isn't working, but let's try this. Because what was working last year may not be working this year, but the opposite could be true too. What wasn't working is now available to me. Or if I go across the highway to that other county, I can do what I want to do too. So again, flexibility and having knowledge and different tools in the toolbox is a really big thing.
Oh, for sure. And again, a lot of this, guys, Darcy can speak to because he's been through a couple of market cycles here. Like I love speaking with people who, hey, they didn't just get into the most recent one, because everything, if you've talked to anybody who's been investing in the last 10 years, they've been used to the super cheap money. Hey, well, this works because you can be in and out doing like they fix and flip because the money's so cheap. Right. And so it's like, okay, well, hey, guess what? The money's not cheap anymore. Right. And so like, do you have any other tools in your toolbox? Right. Because if you don't, you're not going to be able to solve any more problems. So I love you being able to bring in a fresh set of eyes and different strategies.
Say the gray hair shows I've been in 4 or 5 of these recessions and turnarounds, but that's the difference between long-term. That's another reason why I got out of rentals as well too, is because the 8, 10, 12 years, you've got to wait for the appreciation to come up and the equity pay down to go down. Interest rates mean a lot. It's a bigger deal. So at 1.9%, it's free money. Great. But now interest rates went up. We got refinanced. Now my payments are 3 times. Interest rates are a big deal over 5, 10, 20 years. If I'm doing some in and out quick, land development, new construction, I'm in and out in a year. Hey, it's important, interest rates, but not nearly as, right? It's just the costs that we have to account for. So a huge rise affects me a lot less than it will be an apartment owner.
Oh, for sure. And again, like this just goes back to like staying nimble, staying flexible, knowing it. Okay. Yeah, I can kind of doesn't matter if you've got enough tools in the toolbox, whatever opportunity presents itself. And that's how you can see these challenges as opportunities. You'll be able to solve that problem and create a new opportunity. You can still come out winning. Right. And so no, I love that. Well, I mean, Darcy, I feel like I could talk to you all day with this and stories and strategy. I mean, anybody who's in the business, and we have an appreciation for that, right? So it's just fun to talk shop. But at this point of the show, we have something we call our fire round, just a little bit more of a kind of brief Q&A, a little bit more quicker answer, fun answers, maybe. Is that something you're up for?
For sure. Yeah, I love these.
Awesome. All right, first question: what is your best book recommendation?
Well, I'm going to say my own.
Maybe some of your own
that you'd have. Yeah, so about 4. They're on Amazon, and shameless plug here, but one's on land development, one's on new construction, one's on, I compare strategies. So I do that, what we talked about. Okay, here's what's good and bad. Here's an honest assessment of rentals, and here's flips, and here's land development as well, the good and bad there. So kind of a 23-year history of here's the real truth, not just what you hear on the TV shows on how to improve cash flow. So yeah, I've got bunch of stuff out there that when you write a book, they say don't write a book that's already been written. So I think the 4 books are fairly unique. So you might want to check.
Very cool. Yeah, we'll make sure you guys are checking those out. We'll try to see if we can leave some links down in the show notes for you guys. What would you consider your superpower to be?
Perseverance. So when I've talked about horse track, but I was involved in horse track. It was basically in chapter 13 or creditor protection, where the bank, we'd gone to the courts to beg for our lives because we were trying to put this horse track together in the 08 recession, and we got our butt kicked. We were $108 million in debt. And so we're trying to save an industry. Like if we'd have gone down, the whole horse racing industry in our area would have gone down. So just waking up every day, trying to keep this thing going. Eventually we got it. We got the money that we needed, and then got out of debt and Took 5 or 6 years, but now it's a thriving track and there's horses running around the property and people putting money in slot machines. So perseverance is probably my biggest one.
Oh, super cool. And that may actually be the question or the answer to the next question is, what is the biggest lesson you've learned over your career?
So that also, like I said, match strategy to personality, but also focus. Once you do figure out what it is, do make better money quicker if you focus on stuff. So while it's great that I flipped and did all these things, and I did well financially too, but focus helps a lot. And then the other thing is I was a lone wolf guy all my life. I had to really, I don't know why, but I just had to do everything myself. I'd hire an engineer if I needed one. But I find the value of an operational partner. Like we talk about JV partners all the time, but can you find another investor that's strong where you're weak and vice versa? Like I love the hunt. I love finding the opportunities. I love putting the deal together. I don't like the execution part, right? So I should have found someone that would have been a down day for me when I got the keys to the new property, because now the fun part was over and now I had to do the part I didn't like. So find a good operational partner. And even with money, there's people out there, we always say, well, I can't find money. I always have problems finding JV partners. Well, there's people that are good at finding money. So potentially partner with that. So, okay, I'll find stuff. You find the money. And then this other partner, they'll do the actual on-site stuff. And between the three of us, it's going to be a pretty good team. So don't be lone wolf. This is another thing.
Yeah. No, that's great. And again, that comes back to like, know thyself, because if you know yourself or your strengths, then great. Hey, go match that up with somebody else who has a strength that's complementary to yours. Because they're just to your point, exactly. There are some people that are amazing at raising capital. They can relationship build, they know what they're doing, they can go, and that's their strong suit. And so you may be thinking, well, I don't want to give up that portion of the pie because I could just go do that myself. You know what? If it's a grind to you and you're not good at it, you won't do it. So find the partner that is good at doing that thing, partner that with your strength. Trust me, you're going to be able to do so much more than you ever would running solo, doing something that you hate. You won't, again, it will be sustainable also.
Here's just a funny story about that. I always pictured myself that I was the finder guy. I wasn't good at finding money, but I just kind of sat down and added it up. I've raised $70 million over my career for my own stuff on the racetrack. So I'm actually pretty good at finding money. And it literally was last year when I kind of figured that out. And finally, after 22 years, it finally, yeah, Darcy actually pretty good too. So you might surprise yourself too that you're better at things than you thought you were.
Yep. And again, this comes back to like, all right, just gonna fail forward. I'm gonna try some stuff. And again, you may have skills that you just never realized that you did have. You may find that you will like something. Again, that may be outside of your wheelhouse or what you think about yourself. So no, that's huge. And then
I was just gonna say, there's a multi-billion-dollar industry of how to and fixing up. We kind of focus on what are your weaknesses. Let's make your weaknesses better. I've come kind of around to change that thinking. Say, no, just go hard on what you're really good at, what you like and what you're good at. Go hard on that, and then delegate or partner for all the rest of the stuff. You don't have to be all things to all people.
Yeah, no, and I had a hard time just mentally with that. It's like, well, yeah, you're talking about, well, fix your low plank and fix. I've come to understand you do have strengths. I want to play to those strengths, whether they be a skill set, personality. If I've got character issues, character flaws, that's the kind of stuff that you want to shore up, because that's going to spill out into like multiple areas of your life. But if you've got some other kind of skill set that's a strength, hammer that strength, focus on the strength, develop that, and then partner, again, just to your point, partnered for the rest of that stuff. Because then now you can help people walk and kind of develop their strengths also, right? So it's not just about you, right? So I love that. And then last question for the busy working professional, somebody's trying to work towards financial freedom. What advice would you have for them?
So pick a strategy that allows you to do that. So do you want to stay a W-2 employee or a contractor and then just do all this on the side? Perfect. So find a strategy that works with that. And then there's this real estate development, plan development, new construction world, a lot of assembly, a lot of entitlement. There's ways to do that. If you want to be hands-on, pick a strategy that works for that. So that's about another thing I love about development, new construction is no matter where you're coming from, how hands-on you want to be, there's ways to get into it too. And if you want to just be a W-2 employee and spend the time with your kids and your family and go on vacation and then just doing some stuff off to the side, there's ways to do that too.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. That's why I love real estate. Well, Darcy, if our audience wants to get in touch with you, they want to find more about your course, or they just want to pick your brain, have some questions for you, what's the best way for them to reach out and learn more?
Yeah, just my name, darcymarler.com is my website. It'll take you to the kind of the course landing page. There's curriculum. There's some students taking action videos, some testimonials. And then my video, I've got like 130 videos on YouTube talking just about this. I don't talk about multifamily and flips. I talk just about development. And it's just go to YouTube and type in Darcy Marler channel and it'll bring me up. So I made it pretty easy to find me.
Awesome. Well, I really appreciate you taking time out of your day to come on and share some insight and likely a new strategy for a lot of investors out there. So thanks for taking your time out. Next time you're out in Hawaii, I definitely would love to connect with you. Or if you guys are up in Canada or maybe somewhere where Darcy's got some projects or something going on, make sure that you're reaching out and see if you connect with him as well. But I really appreciate you coming on today and sharing your wisdom and your insight with us.
I'd love to, I'm a bit of a prophet or an evangelist talking about this stuff. So I love it. Yeah. So thank you very much for inviting me. I've had a blast.
Thanks so much, Darcy. Well, have a great day. We'll talk to you soon. All right. Aloha.
Aloha.
All right. Awesome conversation with Darcy Marler. What a fresh perspective and some fresh insight, being able to look at real estate investing through a little bit of a different lens. Darcy's big on land development at this point. He's got lots of experience doing other forms, other strategies in real estate. It doesn't always have to be the same guys. Somebody else has been invested in real estate and maybe they're doing something that you're not comfortable with, or you're just not familiar with, and maybe it's just not a great fit for your personality. That was a big deal. It was like, hey, know yourself, know what you're good at, know what you're not, know what's a good fit for you and your skill set, your personality. You're going to be much more satisfied, much more joyful being able to do that versus trying to kind of force a square in a round hole. So that's great takeaway, great show with him. So definitely make sure that you're checking him out, darcymarler.com, or checking out his YouTube channel as well. Guys, if you guys are interested in investing with us, go to tricityequity.com to learn how you can connect with the deals that we've got, that we're putting on, and the opportunities that we're creating. If you want to network with other like-minded local investors here in Honolulu, join our Facebook group, Honolulu Multifamily and More. We meet up every month. So we'd love to meet you in person, shake your hand, put a face to the name. And if you're not subscribed yet, subscribe to the show. Give us a thumbs up, give us a like. Make sure you hit that like button, share the show as well. And we're running low on time, guys, in terms of getting your tickets for the upcoming conference, the Hawaii Millionaire Mindset Conference. It's the largest and best real estate and entrepreneurial conference in Hawaii. Make plans to be there. It's such an amazing time. It's going to be happening July 10th to the 13th here on Oahu, out at beautiful Ko'olina, out at the Four Seasons Resort. Incredible resort. You're going to love being there. If nothing else, come for the resort, come for the ambiance. But now you're going to receive tons of value from the speakers that are going to be on, the connections that you can make while being at a conference like that. Again, it's all about mindset. It's all about connecting with people who want to elevate their position, elevate the influence that they have, their business, all that kind of good stuff. So make plans to be there. All right, guys, that's going to be it for today. We'll see you on the next episode. Go out, take some action, and we'll see you on the next one. Aloha.